This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put the South at the center. I'm Dhanya Rajendran, your host, and joining me in the studio is Pooja Prasanna, my co-host and reporting head of the News Minute.
Happy 12th anniversary, Dhanya. Not wedding anniversary, but
Anniversary of the News Minute. So we have a very special episode. As you know, South Central is a podcast that drops every Friday. We normally discuss headlines and then we deep dive into two issues or events that happened in the south of India. But this week, we'll not be doing any of that. We have a very special episode lined up for you for our 12th anniversary. We have an array of people joining us from past TNM, present TNM, maybe even future TNM, you don't know, because we have a history of a lot of people coming back to the office after they quit. So joining us in the studio is Sudipto Mondal. Sudipto, hello. And
Hello.
Nandini.
hey,
And on your screen, you see several faces of the News Minute, past, present, future.
I want to say for a change, we look like a TV channel primetime discussion. Lots of small windows.
Yeah, I think we've done this one before where everybody just started shouting at the same time to show how a TV channel actually functions. Yeah, so we have got Anisha Sheth, our first ever employee of the News Minute, Harita John, who I recently described as someone like wallpaper of the office because she's been there for so long also. Harita is our Kerala bureau chief, somebody who was there, quit, came back. Priyanka Tirumurthy, who was heading our Chennai bureau for some time, for a few years in fact. Sayukta Dharmadhikari, who was heading breaking news and doing all kinds of stuff, including legal reporting.
And cracking bad jokes.
Very bad jokes. There's Charan Teja, who is now in Germany doing his PhD. Charan was reporting for us from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Bala joins us from Hyderabad. He is also, been with us for a very long time. Bala from Hyderabad. Then there's Azifa Fatima. I see Azifa is joining us from Thiruvananthapuram. She has taken over Sayukta's job and she now heads the breaking news desk. Finally, our gender head, what do we call her?
Gender expert.
Gender expert. Sukanya Shaji from Kochi. Thank you everyone for joining us. So the reason why we decided to bring all these people together is to just give you a glimpse of how a newsroom works. You know, we started this organization with 2 or 3 people and then we grew into a larger organization. But at the heart of it, we've always believed in reporting. So through the eyes of all these people, we will tell you what the News Minute means for us and hopefully it will mean the same for you. So first we'll begin with Anisha Sheth, who was the first ever employee of the News Minute and she's currently the Karnataka bureau chief. Anisha?
Hello. I'm just happy to be back. It's been the TNM we started out with was really different. The core values of course still stay the same, but there's so many more people, so many more colleagues to work with, collaborate with, learn from, exchange ideas with also. So it's a really good place to be in.
So when we first started out, we had one small room. Even for those who are now in this office, we only had one room. Then we broke the wall and we added more rooms. It was just me, Anisha, there was one more employee and an intern. So the first News Minute was an aggregator. We decided to be like Huffington Post.
So the intern was there before me.
So we decided to be an aggregator and that poor intern's job was she will look at headlines and we had this very different CMS. So she has to paste the headline and she has to paste the link. So if you come to the newsminute.com, you will see all the Hindu headlines, Indian Express headlines. It was like that.
I was around as a peeping Tom.
Yeah.
Back then,
Oh.
I used to work just across the road at Hindustan Time, and I used to come and check on what's happening. Yeah.
No, it was fun and all that. But I've said this before. Every time I'm frustrated with the world and journalism in particular, I just come here just to feel like there is still hope right from the beginning. So yeah.
Okay, so now we'll go to Sayukta because Sayukta can explain to us, the News Minute has gone through several transitions, I feel. First, we started as an aggregator. Then we went to small-time ground reporting, which Harita and the others were doing. Bala, a lot of them joined. But when Sayukta came, there was a big shift. We shifted to news as a desk itself. We had this breaking news desk, right, Sayukta?
Yeah. Even when I was there, joined off as a sub editor, but then later on they realized, like I realized my interest lied in breaking news. I was like, Dhanya, I used to keep prodding Dhanya, this is breaking, Dhanya, this is breaking. So then she basically said, you go sit there and manage this. So that's what happened. We started a breaking news desk, and I think we then focused on the fast news stories that are of importance not just to the southern states but to India as a whole, because everything that happens, I think, in India also somehow affects the southern states as well. So that's what we started focusing on, that okay, even when it came to what's happening in our courts, be it like even the southern courts and even the Supreme Courts, any sort of news that has an impact on India as a whole, we decided we wanted to focus on that. And again, there were like these areas that we wanted to focus on. There was power, like building power accountable. Then there was gender, federalism, crime, politics. So we started branching out into all of these areas, but with a focus on South India as well. So yeah, I think that is what happened. And I think we started becoming like this very well-oiled machine that breaking news desk would be the first responders of a news item, and then if the reporters want to delve into something that the breaking news has done, if you want to take a story forward, then we would hand over to the reporter saying, hey, you should do this kind of thing. So we became a really well-oiled machine by then.
No, I was just trying to say that, breaking news, for those of you who were wondering, I mean, it's not like it was an indiscriminate blast of aggregating everything. The choice of stories which made for breaking news, I think that from there itself, you started distinguishing yourself as an outlet. I was not part of TNM back then, but you knew that a certain kind of story would get a certain kind of play in the News Minute. And it was not like any other news stream that you would have, say, in a channel or even for that matter in a newspaper. It was a very curated, select set of stories which highlighted the South and the South on those gradations of gender, of caste, of different kind of human rights issues. So I think that's what set our breaking news apart.
But breaking news also comes with its own danger, right? The danger of breaking news is that you are trying to just put out something really fast and then you can end up getting wrong. So that was, I think, one major challenge. Even as a breaking news desk, it's not about just hearing something and putting it out. We had a layer of confirmation. Yeah.
But I think as people who are looking from outside into what was happening in News Minute, I was in TV at the time, and I know that when something would break, our colleagues, not me, but our colleagues would say anything and everything on it. That never happened.
Not me.
Not me. I mean, I'm known to be modest, you all know that. But that never happened, I think, here at the News Minute. And that comes from a certain level of reporting that all of you had done and brought to the table.
No, so even this breaking news, we've had a transition from breaking news. And I'm just trying to explain to our listeners, So at one point, we look at breaking news as one big segment of TNM. Now, that's the time when a lot of the bigger organizations are not yet into the game properly. Like the Hindu, the Indian Express, TNI, they're all they think the newspaper is the biggest element, right? So they would save their best stories for the next day. Therefore, we are an advantage. But that has actually passed. That advantage is passed now because everybody has staff and everybody is doing more. So I'll let Azifa explain, because Azifa now looks at breaking news desk, right?
So when I joined the breaking news, like we had this whole system of shifts and a lot of people in each shifts, and we would cover everything. We will put out each newspaper, each news copies and everything. Like sometimes we had to put it within minutes, right? Like I remember Saika telling, you should put it within 30 minutes. And sometimes even now I have that habit. But now I think we have moved back from that model, because we have a lot of not only news organizations, but also individuals who do it on social media. Like they put breaking news and sometimes verified, sometimes unverified. But the whole breaking news ecosystem has also changed a lot. So that's when we also started struggling a bit, like when we started changing our system around a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like this whole confusion over what news we should focus and how we should focus. And that's when we started focusing on the structure of what we are writing, right? Like what exactly do we want to write and how we want to write. And our importance always came in the way that we contextualized news copies. And that is what that we do now, because like now, as many of the regular TNM people would know, that we have reduced our news copies considerably. And instead of that, we just focus our time and energy, whatever limited time and energy we have, on longer stories like deep dives and explainers and video content.
Our breaking news copies have decreased, yes. But even when we report on breaking news, we try not to be the first to report it. I think that is where a lot of errors creep in. And not being caught in the news cycle, the running news cycle where people have to constantly follow and report every small thing. It might be significant, it might not be. It kind of takes away the content and what we are trying to say. So what we are looking at is gathering the breaking news itself and looking at larger packages which add more content, more information. So this allows us to work as well. So that's an outcome of the breaking news itself. But the pressure is not there of, you have to be the first to report it. Give us a little breather, but do a better job of it and, get confirmation, get reliable information out there. It does make a difference.
No, but I also want to get Sayukta in on this. I think you converted something others would see as a weakness, the fact that you don't have so many reporters on the ground. You converted that into your strength, where you wouldn't just rush to cover everything for the sake of it. There was a certain intentionality to what you were doing. You take a minute, you would make the calls that you had to, though you would bring it out fast. And Sayukta, I've seen you do this. You'd get the reporters to quickly make those calls so that whatever we put out can be trusted completely. Was that challenging? Was that tricky?
Actually, that is what I wanted to talk about also. Okay, News Minute as an organization, I feel, is very particular about the fact that it wants to put out only facts. And while I was doing breaking news also, I had that responsibility of making sure that at least one element of verification we have in every copy that we used to put out. So be it asking the reporter to make a quick call to just get the policeman to confirm, okay, something like this has happened. Till then, we keep the copy ready. We write everything. And only when we got the sort of confirmation that, okay, this is happening on ground, we used to push it out. And that honestly used to, even if it delayed us for an hour, we used to still be able to then put an angle to the article that would also stand out. So that sort of process was still in place, that facts are, first and foremost, the most important thing. It doesn't matter whether we are first or not. We have to be accurate, but fast.
Yeah, so I think the breaking news desk apart, I think if you look at any vertical of the News Minute, whether it is video, whether it's breaking news or it's long form, it's also about holding people to account, right? I remember Sudipto was with the Hindu, then Hindustan Times, and he was freelancing. So one day, the Tejasvi Surya went to the BBMP control rooms and did this whole tamasha where he tried to single out the Muslims in that room. Everybody reported like Tejasvi Surya takes control, Tejasvi Surya blasts BBMP. Suddenly, Sudipto is like, can I go report in the night? And he goes in the night, finds those Muslim young men who really lost their job overnight because of overzealous and bigoted Tejasvi Surya. And I was like, why is this Sudipto freelancing? We should bring him back to a proper job, right? That's how then the talk started. But one thing that Sudipto would keep saying is that it's not enough to just go to a place and then take 2 sound bites of people being sad or people being deprived of their rights, but you have to pinpoint who deprived them of their rights. Why are they sad? Who has to be held responsible? But that strain has always been there, right, Priyanka, of really whatever story that you do, and Priyanka has done a lot of gender stories also from Chennai. It's now that we have 3 men in the Chennai bureau, right? That's the first time. We've always had only women reporters there. Priyanka, how was it?
I think as far as the Chennai team was concerned, like we were an all-women team. There was, of course, me, Mansa, Megha, Anjana, all of us reporting. And I think to say that it was the gender lens naturally fell into all of our reportage. It was not fixed, like it was not forced. It was not like Dhanya or anybody had to tell us, look at the gender angle. I think it came naturally from our own lived experiences. And of course, it was also the News Minute's way of doing things, right? We try to look at anything that we see from a gender angle. Like we wouldn't just take any sort of complaints to be fact. We would double check, triple check. There would be times when we would make 4 or 5 calls a day and the desk would be like, where's the copy? But we had to make sure that whatever we're putting out is very accurate. And I think the fact that the team would give us that kind of time and space to do that is something very special. So as far as the Chennai team was concerned, we did very strong gender stories during our time there. One of the stories that really caught our attention was, of course, the Hasini case. This was a time when the entire state was focused on the Jallikattu protests. But I remember Danya called me one day and said, no, you should check out this story that is happening. And I had gone to the area where this had happened. I had done a ground report. And ours was one of the most detailed reports to come out of that particular case. And I would go as far as saying we were able to speak to the neighbors. We were able to get information that a lot of other newspapers and websites completely missed out. And from that point on, we followed this case doggedly and very rigorously. Right from Tashwan getting arrested, we then did interviews with the father. We were the first one to get an interview with Hasini's father. And then every single point of that case is something we followed, be it the Gundas Act being slapped on Tashwan. And in this particular case, we actually questioned the police. We asked, why are you slapping the Gundas Act on this man? Because that meant that he was able to apply for bail after a certain point because it didn't make sense. Right from there, we followed the case from the trial court, high court, and it kept going on. And I think it's safe to say that our reportage on this case is pretty much unmatched.
Okay, so Paul Oman joins us from Hyderabad. I always joke that even if TNM shuts down one day, Paul will live on because there are 2-3 cases we have courtesy Paul, including one criminal defamation. Thank you, Paul, for that. So Paul had done this investigation on an IAS officer. Sudipto, you were one of the editors on that story. No, but Paul, you were also someone who, like Pooja, me, etc., came from TV to a website, right? But even then, that focus of holding somebody accountable, that was a bit more challenging in print. Do you feel so?
Firstly, Danya, thank you for having me here. Great to be on a panel with all my ex-colleagues. Yes, I moved from TV just like you and Pooja did, and I think it was equally difficult in TV like it was in digital, because in TV we had to get them on camera, but here we also had to, in camera, in TV, the advantage is that people break the news and then just move on. Whereas in digital, it's always there. The footprint remains. So people can always go back and check what you have done. It was only later that on social media, TV started putting out stories. So I felt it was even more difficult in digital because you had to re-verify multiple times before actually putting it out, before breaking it. So yes, it was equally difficult or even more difficult in print, Anya.
Would you say this IA story was one of the most difficult in your career itself, considering how many days we had to go back and forth? It was one source who told us that this IAS officer had made a conglomerate pay for his daughter's wedding. And we had to have all the bills in place.
No, not us.
Yeah.
They told Paul.
They told Paul, correct. They told Paul. Yeah.
Paul's contact told Paul that
This
something like
happened.
this is happening.
And we had to go through every single bill of that wedding. He had to physically go check if this hotels where this wedding happened on that day, it was true. Then I remember he suddenly went to this house of one of the dummy companies they made. Right, Paul?
That's right. It took us several weeks. And I think as editors, there were some unrealistic times where not only you, Danya, even Sudipto, all of them asked for certain documents, certain things multiple times in different ways. And I thought it was really unrealistic at that point. But, over the weeks when I actually worked over that particular story, I realized how each of it added, character to the story, and it made the story much more watertight. And then the story in itself was a learning experience for me. And I think it was only because it was News Minute that, we could put out that story, because Danya took a stand despite a lot of pressure from outside saying, don't put out that story. A lot of effort went in to ensure that we don't put it out. But finally, we did put out that story. Yes, it was one of the most difficult stories, but something that, I can proudly say that, we managed to do it as a team.
No, just to add to that, there was the highest pressure meeting was with the lawyers, if you remember.
No, I have to say that. So for people wondering, how do you do these stories? So story basically is the IAS officer gets the daughter married, and we are saying that the payment was done by this company MEIL through dummy companies. Now, I did not even know MEIL because I have not Googled properly. I have not got into the story at all properly. Sudipto and Raga are editing. They've given me after their first round of editing, etc. And then I'm like, this MEIL, that's a billionaire. Like, how do we go about it? So we had this call with, I think, 6 lawyers. This is the first time we are having this huge call with lawyers, and they said this, which when I told Paul that we have to go back to the source again. I think the source would have gotten a bit crazy. We have got, I mean, these are things that we can't say in the live stream, but we were under a lot of pressure not to carry that story. But we eventually did.
Somebody visited the office. We can say that.
Yeah, we can
say that
much.
somebody visited the office and that somebody was not a very pleasant person.
Very exciting that was.
That was the best part where, there were 3-4 people in the room and different angles. We had cameras set up so that, we could actually capture that moment. And yeah, like they say, the rest is history.
So, okay, Charan, but when we hold people to account, it's not just been politicians, right, for us. I mean, I think you brought to the desk, you and Bala, the sensibility of questioning when there are caste fights or, when there's violence, to how to question that too, like how to bring accountability to that kind of reporting.
I think what I learned at News Minute was paying detailed attention to even minor things that usually other paper, other publication doesn't care to include in the reporting, including the language and sometimes I don't know exact word in English, but like the mahol, in the sense what is happening on the ground. Like when we enter the scene, it's like presenting the social process or visual in the text that I learned. And I think going alone with such kind of descriptions make us sound like we are kind of editorializing or theorizing the pieces, but like backing it with substantial quotes from the victims and sometimes the accused themselves and the police actually makes it standard. In one instance, like it's right in the beginning of soon after joining the News Minute, I guess I went to a village in Andhra Pradesh. It's called Jaragaparu, and that village remained as a point of politics for almost 2 years until Jagannath Reddy came into power. I think at that point of time, like it's a random thought. Instead of directly going to the so-called victim's place or visiting them, me and other reporter who is also freelancing with us at that point of time, Rahul Maganti, we managed to went to the main accused who was plotting the entire social boycott and the violence. So we managed to talk to them and they gave their side. So yeah, after talking to them, we went to the victims themselves. So we collaged the both versions, and beside that, like we also I also managed to bring some political economy, like how the lands are being held by the accused community, what kind of political and economical power they hold. So bringing this kind of although they directly doesn't including the story that is unfolding, but like telling somebody who is like as powerful as like having some 20 acres or 25 acres in a village can give some picture about like how he can control the agriculture or peasant communities around him, and how he can actually ask other peasants or farmers to stop giving work to the laborers. So it's kind of spotting it.
Yeah, but I just want to remind everybody that Charan used to play a major fraud on us. He used to go to places and then also report on food. And he used to claim that this restaurant is very famous here, Danya, let me also write on it. Then I realized many years later, it's not a famous restaurant. Charan just went there. He just liked one dish. And he would write an entire story on that restaurant. So if you search Charan food, the News Minute also, you'll get a lot of articles.
But there's still not just well-read stories. That those foods which I have tried are really popular. Like how many people have written about the Ankapur Sirne? I think after I have written the story, their sales have gone up. Swiggy, Zomato, everyone started.
Yeah, I just
pudding.
want to say this: Charan, Bala, and Paul were all like travel frauds. Okay, so Paul would pitch about this strawberry farming, and I'm like, we don't do these stories, man. He said it will be a big hit. Danya, I'll go for strawberry farming, and there is a video of Paul at a strawberry farm. Then he said, I want to earn ganja. That was a serious story. He went to Andhra Pradesh, and I remember Sayukta was there at that time. There was this ganja burning. So they're burning like kilos and kilos of ganja. And we are asking Paul, are you high? Paul, are you high? He's like, no, I don't think when you burn ganja, you get high. He claimed. Okay, Bala, I'll come to you about holding people accountable. Do you have any instances to share? I mean, for me, that whole Amrita, Pranay, Maruti instance, right? Which also was very difficult for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just wanted to before so this whole Pranay incident, that was one of the major incidents which happened in Telangana at that point of time. After post-Rohit Vemula, that was the biggest incident, biggest caste atrocity happening. And I remember, News Minute used to be one of the very few organizations which was very careful with its wording, and it's like how you try to, write sensitively. Without taking any sides, because I remember in our editorials we had a clear-cut instruction that when you are saying a clash happened, you have to realize the gravity of it, because it can't be one group coming and attacking in a village, or they're attacking the unarmed group and saying that and we can call it what you call a clash as between two people. So I remember, how carefully we were, even before, later, I wouldn't say many copied or whatever, but I think we were the first organizations to realize the gravity of how do you define a clash? Because earlier reports often, whenever there's a communal violence, it is always used to be written as clash. And there would be no names of either communities, whoever involved. So that is one thing, News Minute has been very careful about, how you present them. And the other part of it was this whole Pranay thing. Initially there was a lot of, initially there was a lot of sympathy around Pranay, but as the other caste groups actually became louder in its game, trying to project that Maruti as as if it was a subject of honor, where a father did what he had to do, and the father was actually in a sorry state because he was protecting his daughter in their view, and they tried to project Pranay as someone who, it was another case of love jihad in that sense. In that sense, because they try to project Pranay as someone who's unemployed. But our consistent report proved that, Pranay's background, his father was coming from a well-to-do family. Their income was not at all as these people projected. And in fact, they wanted to, demonize this whole thing, because they said that, at this age, what is their love like? How can he love someone? Is this the are we trying to memorialize someone who died? Who was killed because he loved someone? What kind of message are we sending? In fact, they formed groups because they couldn't explicitly say that they belong to certain caste groups. They had used a banner of school parents association, because they said that Pranay had been in relationship with Amrita for since school. So they are what kind of message does this send to the society? We should ban such relationships, all that. So yeah, at that point, News Minute was very careful. Not just in that whole thing, I think, yeah. So, not just that in Pranay's case, even during Rohit Vemula's issue, I remember Ram had done a lot of reporting. So, I remember reading a lot of Ram's articles, and Anusha also was there at that point. Anusha also has done, try to get his caste certificate to prove that, Rohit was indeed Dalit.
And another thing to Pranay's case, I guess, I think it was we at the News Minute. I mean, I was in Miryalaguda for almost 1 week from the day of the murder to until the culprits were arrested. I think it is we who started, it is we who dismissed the wording like honor killing. And that's a major shift in the language.
Yeah, because I remember, I don't know if I can take names, but yeah, TV9 did an entire coverage, reading out a lot of, initially they were against it, but later as soon as the anger kind of died down, they started TV9 and the other organizations. In fact, when Maruti Rao committed suicide, they started reading out a letter saying that, this is what he had written for his daughter, all that. So, I mean, it is scary how like there's no consistency in how people approach, because when there was a sympathy for Pranay, they switched this side. And when they saw that, there's a sympathy from the other end, they immediately switched to the other side.
Yeah, actually, caste is something which, reporting from Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, I realized that there are very few organizations that were not taking casteist lines. I just want to mention this Rohit Vemula reporting by Anusha Puppala. I specifically remember because in 2016, so till then newspapers would never, like, even if they follow up a story on read it, they'll never mention us. First time the Telegraph mentioned the News Minute, I still vividly remember because we had actually fact-checked Smriti Irani's statement in the parliament about the medical officers, what Smriti Irani said about Rohit Vemula's time of death. And that is the first time, I think Anisha will also remember, we were so happy because the next day, the Telegraph newspaper said the News Minute reported. And we were like, wow, our story is actually...
You arrived.
Yeah. We arrived before, but just that somebody was quoting us, right? It just felt very good at that time. You wanted to say something, Nandini?
Summarizing what Bala and Charan are saying, that caste reporting issues, all these issues come in various forms, right? We do long form, we do breaking. But one of the things we remain steady is about putting that responsibility, like we talked about earlier. We have to, who is responsible? I come from a print background. I've been here 4 years. But still, used to writing this sort where two communities clashed with each other, there was a skirmish. So there was no idea to the reader about what they're talking about, who are these communities. So whatever our copies, however big, however small, we make sure that is clearly mentioned. We mention caste. We are mentioning the caste of the person, who committing the atrocity, the person or the group. We are talking about the caste of the person who are victims. And, we don't just dismiss as like a Dalit. We are talking about who amongst the community. Because all these, ratios of the populations vary, there is a dominant community and there is a smaller community. So these things matter. So at context, right? Context, it was mentioned, the fact that we call it caste killing. It's a simple switch. We do not acknowledge the term honor killing, right? It is very important because it really talks about what it is. It can be seen as brutal because even when, we've called up during certain crimes, when we call up somebody like a cop or fronted to get information there and we ask about the caste, we specifically ask them, they're like, oh, you need to know that too. Or they'll brush it off, oh, SC madam. And then we say specifically what among them, Adu Beka. Roughly translate, you need that too. But yes, we do need that. We do put it.
So the killers and
No, so I remember first when we started mentioning one or two cases, then it had to become a rule, right? You can't just mention like 1 year or whatever, Reddy in one copy and then in the next copy not have. Because when sometimes a reporter couldn't find out and we could put copies without naming the caste, people will start asking, why in this copy you guys have not named the caste? So that became a rule.
One of the things I feel, this is one area to my mind, as you know, for me, 2016 was the turning point in my life, my career. the way I saw journalism and the world and Indian politics. And in that context, I feel that the News Minute is the most transformed outlet in Indian media. And I do not say this just because I work here. That happened later. The reason I say this is these examples that you speak of, right? A change in language, a change in the way of seeing, a change in this simple thing of focusing on the perpetrator. I find it so... There's an atrocity that happens after the atrocity, which is that the reporter lands up in the house of the victim to find out how bad the atrocity was. And I take pride in the fact that I work in an outlet which, even before I joined, tried to start moving away from that approach and try to focus on the perpetrators. And this is not something which is common even in the so-called progressive media. So yeah, I think 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, was a big turning point in the way you approached journalism as a whole, I think, after Rohit.
I think first year though I've discounted completely because I had no freaking clue what I was doing. Yeah, slowly, steadily we did. So one thing that Priyanka said when she was speaking is that they did a lot of gender stories, right? So when News Minute first started, I did not think of gender as something we'll pursue, but I always knew that I want to do women and children stories.
But that was largely also a lot of stories you covered when you were a reporter in Times.
I know, nobody told me I'm a feminist sort of thing, right? I mean, you worked in Times now, you can't technically be a feminist or anything.
Can be.
But I realized that I was doing a lot of children and women stories. So I was naturally drifting towards them. And then Soumya came in, Ragamalika, Anna, everybody brought in that gender lens. So we have Sukanya now, who's like perhaps looking at the gender angle of it after a lot of people before her really have shaped this whole thing, right, Sukanya?
Yes. So for me, it was relatively easier because, like you said, there are so many people like Sanyupta and Raga and Soumya, Geetika, all of these people, Priyanka, they've already set that tone. So it was quite easy for me to understand where the News Minute stands and what sort of direction we have to take in our gender stories. But one thing I want to say is, I also came in with a lot of rage, not towards the work, but inside. Like I came from a place called Feminism in India. So we had, it is, you know what your feministic ideas are, you're still evolving, whatever. But I came in with a lot of rage. And initially, I think one of the first long stories that I did was on single women in India. I said that I felt that single women are not considered as a legal entity. They're not considered as a legitimate entity. They're in transit, sort of waiting to get married, kind of. So their legal rights and their social challenges and all of that. So I did a long story on that. And through that and through the other stories, what I consecutively learned is where to channel this rage. Like everybody else who spoke before me said, how do you hold systems accountable? And I realized why that is so important. It's just not because a lot of times when we see gender stories and atrocity stories, even when we write, we start with how bad the situation is, like how Sudipto said, how much, violence has been inflicted, what is the detail. But then I realized that it cannot be all the time. We can't be saying that because that is what happens. That's the impact of violence. You have to go after who did it. You have to look at their caste. You have to look at their positioning. You have to contextualize it. So that was a great learning for me as to where to channel my rage as a feminist, as a person, and also through my writing and journalistically. That's one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is not just holding power to account, but in the process, I must say, I was learning to hold myself to account. Because reporting on gender stories and just putting it out there is not enough, is what I realized. What you learn when you work in an organization that stresses on going back to people you have spoken to, following up on stories, you really have to care about it. You cannot exist in a place like this if you really don't care about the kind of stories that you do. You can't keep following up if you don't care about it. And caring about a story may not look very glamorous or thrilling, so to say. It may be sitting through court documents. It may be following up those little court updates. It was adjourned today the court didn't take it up, whatever. But I realized that pursuing that and working in an organization like this also means holding yourself and the political beliefs that you think you have to account. So staying true to myself has also been something that I learned here. I must say that.
So because twice we've mentioned Raga in this episode and not mentioned and said who it is. Ragamalika used to be one of our main editors, and she, I think, brought in a sense to the newsroom on how to cover LGBTQ community. So I'll let Azifa come in. I remember one of the first stories they did, for which I think we got a Ladli Award also, was, and imagine at that time, no other Indian media had done it, simply to explain terms, right? What is an asexual, an intersex, that directory, which is what our first attempt was. Yeah, Azifa?
Yeah. So, like, one of the main thing that, that I got into habit of after working with TNM is that seeing gender not as something binary, right? So Raga was very crucial in that as well. Like, not everything is about just men and women, because our media ecosystem has sort of conditioned us to see things like that. We also tend to do that. But one of the very crucial things that we do in TNM is that we see gender as a spectrum, and in all the stories, in be it policy or accessibility, healthcare access, employment, education, we look at who is this policy imagined for, and is it only assuming that there are two genders, and where do trans persons fit in? What about non-binary people and the larger community at large? Where do they fit in? And we also tend to prioritize the language that we use. For instance, in many copies, we have focused on the headline, how do we frame, especially in crime stories that involve queer persons come in. We tend to ask that question. Many stories we have chucked in, Sayuta also might remember. Many stories we just focus on if it is needed, if the identity of the person is needed in the copy. And that, I think, is a very important thing that we are doing. And in South especially, we have very distinct and local identities the queer communities have, and largely the whole Western context and the argument that's placed again and again in court that LGBTQ is a Western concept. We, in a way, in our reportage has also broken that concept, right? We have put forth the histories and the contexts and the stories behind these people, I feel.
So Harita has been just listening to everybody, but like Anisha, one of the oldest people around, and Harita, you've seen all these transitions, right? Harita used to wake up at 7 in the morning to do the breaking news. We had aggregations in the morning, so her shift would be at 7 in the morning.
6 to 8 was the first shift when I came in. People hated being on that except Nitin.
I don't even know why we did some of those things that we did, 6 to 8 shift in the morning. Who the hell is reading news at 6 in the morning? I don't know. But we as news people feel like everybody is reading everything. So sometimes I'd go to a movie theater and I'm wondering, these people don't know that there was a blast just now.
But can I say something? You think that, you worked in a silo, but when I was in TV, TNM links were being sent to all of us. Paul,
but you're again a news person.
But it was sent to us saying, you missed this. So it's not happening in vacuum.
But Harita, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I think that initially, as she said, what we were doing, that feel, I get it now, because I woke up at maybe 6:30 in the morning, and before 8 we should file the copies, and even the everyday that cycle, and we have a break in between. That was the first phase. And also initial years we were focused on getting more traffic, that even if we go on, I was more focused on feature stories, human interest stories, which people were interested to read in websites. So that was the initial first 2 years of focus. Then slowly by 2017 we were changing, we were going more in depth, we were moving to long form. So if you're taking gender, so this is something which I learned with TNM, that we should, where the gender is, the inequality in gender in every beat we follow, whether it is politics, whether it is environment, whether it is human rights, migration. So whichever beat I cover, I could see with this angle, which I say, okay, there is an inequality here. The migration is hard for both men and women, but it is the women and children are affected more. The climate change, it affects all, but women are affected more. So that the slight change in angle we see, and we see it in a more gender focused way. So that is something we started focusing after a few years. This is just an example. So same way we started looking at the caste, we started looking at how the politics of South change. So initially I had this
doubt that how do I cover a state which is already exposed a lot. The politics has been already exposed. There's so much happening in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and there's nothing happening in Kerala, that kind of. But later we realized, like, when we changed, when we moved to TNM 2.0, I realized, no, it is not like that. That the change that we can, for example, the Hindutva push, the most of the stories are from Kerala. So that is something which we learned over the years, how to look at the things in a different.
Actually, yeah, there is a TNM 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I can see lots of hands going up, but Sudipta, quickly.
No, just quickly to add to what Harita was saying, I don't know, she didn't talk about it herself, but I think one of the things that stands out about Harita's work is her focus on religion. Religious fundamentalism is one part of it, but religion as such is a body of work that Harita has put together, which is, I don't think, comparable to anything else that exists over there. It's a unique body of work. Her work on Chris Sanghis, her work on Islamic fundamentalism, her work on Hindu fundamentalism, and also my favorite, where she talked about these communist villages in which untouchability is still practiced and things like that. So Harita's standout reportage, I think, is on religion.
Priyanka, you have been there from TNM 1.5 onwards, I think. Were you also waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning for aggregation?
Yeah, so week after week, we would get up. Poor Anna would wake up with us and be so grumpy in the morning.
No. Anna deserves no sympathy because she woke up at 5 anyway.
But by the time she joined, at least I had the privilege of taking it on alternative days. So one person at 7, the other person can take over the next day. But I didn't have that privilege.
It's very confusing for the listeners. So basically, they're cribbing about how their life was. They had to do aggregations every day morning, and Paul just intervened and said, it was a 6-day week. These days, we only have 5-day week. So these were this.
But can I just, I want to all the people cribbing. Do you know that when I came in, that 6-day week, right, Paul, you came from TV. You'd get one full day every week off. It was like I was elated, right? And at the 6 o'clock thing, I remember Sayukta would attest to this. We all had to be 1 week breaking news editor. And I'm like, okay, you can log in at 6, but you can log off at 3, 4 o'clock in the evening and no one's going to like bother you. How does this work? So it actually blew my mind.
But before Priyanka, Anisha has had no such problem. Whether it's morning shift, afternoon shift, she will sleep in the afternoon. She was the only person in office who used to sleep. And I used to be shocked thinking, Anisha, your editor-in-chief is here and you're just sleeping in the afternoon.
This is so totally unfair, okay, because these people are all reminiscing about structures they had problems with, okay. Harita and I worked without structure when we barely had a leave policy. None of that was there. I was doing aggregations. Remember those 4 boxes? We were actually aggregating news. Okay, so that website nobody else even remembers except maybe me and Mona. And Harita, were you doing those aggregations? No.
Yeah, I was doing aggregations, and
no, there was a first version of newsroom that disappeared.
Before Google started doing Google News, we were trying to do that.
Charan, Bala, Paul, first I'll come to Charan. You worked in a primarily women-led newsroom, right? And gender was one of the most important things. How did you guys deal with that? All 3 of you, one by one. Charan.
I think this is really great experience because it really shaped how you see or how you pursue the story. Not just pursuing the stories. I think at the individual level also, there is this. I mean, I come from University of Hyderabad. Although I've seen the feminist discourse or gender politics there, but like nothing much engagement was there because of whatever the political reasons. And kind of, to be honest, I think it was subtle discarding tendency, not because it's completely wrong or anything. It's because of this, no, they don't address the caste question. And it's very, very fair. I think I understood this. I mean, I heard this back in the classes, but about the intersection of the caste, gender, class, and all these things. But in a practicality, like in after joining the News Minute and after starting writing reports, I understood the gravity that we can bring in the reports. I think one day in the initial days, I wrote a report in which I quoted exact cuss words that said by a ex-sarpanch to the present Dalit woman sarpanch. And that actually triggered the police officer. And he said, like, he was asking me, who are you? And I said, I'm a reporter. Then show me your identity card. I said, like, if you are telling me what you're going to do or what you have done, I will write. If you're not telling me, I will say that you didn't tell and don't want to tell. And he didn't say. And I wrote it. And next day I called him. He's like, you wrote it. You wrote that I didn't want to tell you. Why should I tell you? And I said, like, yeah, that's what you said.
Hey, I just want to make one point, because in relation to what Charan has said about caste, I feel like the Newsminute brought a huge change in gender. We kind of went to war against the word lover. The whole lover kills girlfriend or lover.
Jilted lover. Jilted lover.
Jilted lover. How can we forget?
War against it, and we said we will not use it. I think we pretty much changed how media uses that word.
Actually, we did. I remember a lot of other people also followed suit. In fact, now I don't think Times of India also uses those.
Yeah, nobody uses it anymore because we went to war against the word and went to war against people who used it also.
But I want to tell about my honest experience when I started working under women. Okay. So when I came, I initially didn't know. I mean, I knew that, Danya is my boss, everyone is there. But it was such an overwhelming experience to, be surrounded by women, because it's honestly a very, I think, see, that's I think that's most important for me. I realized, because that's a moment I also much later, I realized this is how women must have been feeling to be working under men. Because I'm not trying to draw any parallels, but it's a very, the thing is, men, we crack stupid jokes, which we can't crack amongst you people, right? So that was a very, very difficult experience. And later, I mean, I come from the university, so I was okay. I thought maybe I would, I have some ideas to share. I think I can, say that, okay, this is how we could report. This is how we could report. But initially, I thought I got a good experience about why I think there should be gender justice.
I have so many
This is
questions.
like our dog's argument.
No. Bala's big loss is he couldn't crack jokes, but it never stopped us from cracking jokes. Is Paul there? Because I want to ask him. He came from a predominantly, male editor newsroom.
Not just male, a very masculine kind of journalism.
Yeah. So I want to know Paul's experience, because I realized that Paul, I think, was one of the first semi-senior people, males, who applied to the newsroom. We'd only get freshers like Charan and Bala fresh out of the university, or we'll get somebody with 1 or 2 years experience. Paul had 4 or 5. That was major, because no men with 4 or 5 experience would apply to the Newsminute. Paul?
Yeah, that's right. I had around 5 years experience in total. For me also, it was a very overwhelming experience. I've always worked with women bosses, and I think they're the best. Be it News9 or Times Now, Navika was there, then Danya. Even today, my boss is a woman, and I think they're great at what they do. And about the newsroom experience, I think to be part of a newsroom with so many strong, confident, opinionated women, that was the real experience. Because often I felt I don't have an opinion about so many things. And I thought that's okay, because, there are so many people with opinion around. It gives you all the more, you're like a sponge. You can absorb all that's around, what people are talking. There's so much more to absorb when you don't have an opinion. So there are times when it's okay to not have an opinion. And I think with so many strong, confident people, opinionated people around, that in itself was an experience for me.
We also tried to do, I think, when COVID hit, and all of us, Paul and I had just joined, and we tried to do this video pivot. And I must say, what a disaster that was. We used to do these daily bulletins in the evening. We're trying Twitter. I am so technologically challenged. And people are constantly saying, turn the camera, start this.
No, but I think Priyanka and Paul also brought that video pivot for us.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I'm
Because
saying
they
the three
came
of
in.
us did that. It was called Danya used to call it some nonsensical PPPs, go do videos or something like that. But was that different from how you did video on TV, Paul?
Yeah, I'm also from Times now. So I came with a video focus. So yeah, I think we started with full Josh, but then finally it just turned out into some kind of rant that we were doing into the phone and just holding it at odd angles. We had no help because it was COVID. And Paul and I would fight every day about who will not do it. Paul being like, today you do. I was like, no, you do. And then both of us will ask Pooja to do. This is pretty much the conversation we would have on the PTP group every day.
But I think we're like a Times Now rehabilitation center because there is Pooja, there is Danya, there is Priyanka, there is Paul, there is Sayukta.
There's Shabir.
TNM is what? Times Now Marxist. No.
Yes, my joke. Please can I come in? Because that is, I think, that is one joke I have cracked that has made Dhanya definitely laugh out loud. Because really it is a Times Now rehabilitation center. It's me, Priyanka, Paul, so many people.
What was left of Times Now?
Times Now Marxist.
We all laughed at because we had the Times Now training.
No comments.
I just want to say that I don't think the video pivot happened at that time. I think it happened in 2018 or something only. When we always had Delve, I feel, where we used to do long form videos. We just started experimenting with these short forms later on.
No, I think we did have videos right from the beginning, even in 2016 when Jayalalitha was dying, when Shashikala was coming to power. In fact, we used to get a lot of our audiences because of our videos from Tamil Nadu. But we had Akriti who was leading our video team with Jasim, Nikhil, etc. But we didn't have the resources to give them. As in, to even buy a good graphic suit, stuff like that. We didn't have a good studio. That's where our subscribers really came in. When we made the pivot to a subscription, we could tell people, look, we want to create a studio. Please give us money for that. So thank you all for, allowing us to have the studio here. Now, I have to wrap up also. I had to quickly touch upon, we spoke about gender and holding to power. But the reason the News Minute became popular from the beginning is not because any of this. It was just that we put lens on Southern India. Right? In fact, I remember Harita used to write so many feature stories. One of her most viral features was about this couple from Kerala, Mohan and Vijaya, old couple. They had been to some 80 countries by the time Harita interviewed them. And then people donated money and we could send them to America or one of those countries. I can't remember. Then Harita's other stories about a god who used to eat only munch chocolate. Yeah. So, but with all those stories, we continuously put the focus on the South, right? I mean, I'm saying the lighter stories plus the more focused one. Anisha, you want to jump in here about how we brought the South focus a lot?
Yeah, I mean, remember, I don't remember who did this story. That story on United States of South India, the trolling we got for that, my God. So yeah, I mean, that was an idea, I think, that was floated possibly for the first time. I mean, we have no way to be sure. But it was an idea whose time had probably come. And it has just built, a South Indian lens, I suppose, in that sense, after that. And consistently it's been done, right? One of the things I like best about the work that we do is the cultural focus that we have, right? Because, for example, and there was no other place that possibly could have let me do this story. It's also this is also one of my personal favorite stories where in coastal Karnataka at least, Deepavali is not about Rama, Sita, Ayodhya, etc. It is about something else entirely different. And it just gets, co-opted into this entire, narrative about Deepavali, that dominant narrative that exists, right? There are so many other cultural stories that we've done from the Telugu states, from Kerala, from Tamil Nadu, and which I think is a good thing to do because cultural stories and stories on religion like Harita's work, people don't take them very seriously. But it is such a crucial part of our lives, and I think helps to bring focus on that from time to time and examine all of where we get our culture from, what its history is, and, capture it also in the present moment in time, right?
On the point of covering South, there are multiple ways, right? Like what everybody mentioned. For me, what is striking is when I came in here, hate was normalized to a large extent in other parts of the country, not so much in the South up until then. And I vividly remember just before I joined, in fact, one of the biggest fights I'd had in my previous organization is Tablighi Jamaat was being hunted down as people who are spreading COVID. And I had gotten, and Karnataka had become a hub for that, is what everybody was saying. And I'd gotten the then Home Minister Basavaraj Bommai to admit on video that they had absolutely no basis for saying this. Very candidly, he said it, and it didn't get the kind of play that it should have. And I had a huge showdown saying, but they said, what is the big deal? I mean, they said they spread communal lies and they moved on like it was nothing. Then when we came here, a whole series of things, it coincided with the time when this guy also became the chief minister. And, there was a riot in Shimoga. Entire country's media descended there. A Bajrang Dal young chap was killed, and then in retaliation, they'd all gone berserk and attacked Muslims. Now, they had given so much of time and coverage to the Hindu processions asking for justice that they completely didn't even go into those lanes where Muslims were targeted. You just had to go like 100 meters and see the kind of atrocities that were meted out. Nobody did that because nobody cared about it. We did that. We had visuals of Muslims' homes attacked. People actually came and spoke about how they were attacked, and that's all it took. Actually, the police went there the next day and they got compensation. Not that it means much, but it did happen.
No, but I'm talking about focusing on South India as such, right? Because a lot of news is very Delhi-centric, it's very Bombay-centric. So we put a lens on South India, I'm saying. And federalism became one of our biggest topics.
No, the South India focus coming from a newspaper, let me kind of set it in context. So why is it, for example, that you have some ancient publications headquartered in the South, and yet South is on the leeward side of news? And quite practically, it boils down to Southern newspapers not taking Southern news seriously. And for example, putting news from the South in some state page, in some district page, in some city page. So you would have, let's say there is, for example, a lynching that happens in Uttar Pradesh. It will come in the front page, all edition of the Hindu. There's a lynching that's happening in Mangalore that will appear only in the district pages. Right? That's how I think legacy newspapers in the South have actually undermined the South. The Indian Express is a Southern newspaper. Deccan Herald is a Southern newspaper.
But that's all changed now, I think.
It has changed, and I do believe that change has literally been forced upon them.
No, but federalism, Dhanya, is such an important part of it, because I mean, we keep hearing in journalism, follow the money, follow the funds. And that's true for federalism. But it's not a problem of just the South, right? We have created a template. When I say we, I mean the South, that is applicable to a Bengal, that is applicable to a Maharashtra. It's about, when we say India is a union of states, where are we emphasizing, on the union part or the states part? So I think that's what the focus does.
And as an extension of this sentiment, I think that is the sentiment which took us to Manipur. That is the sentiment which took us to other parts of India which are not exactly technically South.
From the very beginning, even if people did not appreciate a lot of things that we did, they always saw us as a ground reporting, that we were doing ground reports, right? So Harita, if you can chip in, even Charan, Anisha, about ground reporting, how that's been so important for us.
That's for something wanted to this ground reporting. So we actually pitched in the correct time. For example, we'll take this Hindutva South Push series. We actually pitched in the correct time where the Hindutva ideology was spreading very, very rampantly in South, and in Kerala it was actually silent too. So it was we who cracked down into that silent movement that was going on the ground, and we who fixed, because all the though we say that it's highly exposed, a lot of media reporting on Kerala, but they just confined to this kind of reporting that, okay, this bishop said this person this said, like all kind of which can create a further more polarization, because they did not get into the root. So we were the ones who got into the root, and we were the ones who cracked down, and we said that, okay, this group of people who entered into the church, actually they did not have any intention. They were just 14-year-old kids. They were just driving their car and they just entered into a church compound by mistake.
So we were the one who went into the ground and said that this has got a different angle. It is not what mainstream media said. So that was kind of ground reporting, which was not familiar for many media, which was already reporting from Kerala. So I think that's where we stood out in our series and our kind of reporting.
I think adding to that about the catching or tracking the spread of the Hindutva, as we were doing different stories, we were also keeping a look on the sort of, I would say, organic orchestration of the spread of Hindutva through the symbolism like Shivaji statues. I mean, today is Shivaji Jayanti. I think it was we. And later, different organizations have carried out and like presented as if they have invented the phenomena. But that stands out. That story stands out. Like we have characterized it. Not even. Sometimes I have like when I go through some academic journals also, we see some of our reports getting cited when they don't have actual ground research like ethnography or any field-based notes. They quote directly, not as a reference. Like they take that as a ethnographic account and like write the stories. I mean, not just on the communalism, but also on the child marriages, gender neutral hostels, and many more things. I think.
To add to that, when we talk about South focus, I feel something very important that TNM has done is also mainstream media flattens South into caricatures. But for us, we have caught on to specific issues in every state, maintaining the cultural, historic character of that state. So every time we talk about an issue from a state, and when we look at it, like for example, if we look at the actress assault case, or if we look at the Hema committee or the whole entertainment industry in Kerala, which we have been following, Kerala is a state where there are these gender conversations. It is a state that has a lot of left roots and everything. So all the conversations that we have is contextualized to that state, which means that you're not flattening out the South into caricatures, which is important. And also these sexual assault cases, especially from the entertainment industry, when it's reported by channels from the North in Delhi or Bombay or whatever, they just amplify the aspect of sensationalism. But we have also looked at it as a labor rights issue, about an issue of workplace harassment, about workplace rights, about what the government is doing, about this industry as a whole and all of that. So that is the good thing that comes out of looking at each state closely, maintaining the character of that state and not flattening it out like that.
Honestly, I learned everything about South India through just reading the News Minute reports. When I started off, I used to not, if I didn't understand a topic, I used to just read a previous article about it and read it. And I would understand, okay. And that I feel is a very important nuance that a lot of reporters at the News Minute put in. Even if they are reporting on legal stories, even if they are doing breaking news, even if they are doing very hyper local stories, there'll always be an element of why you should know this. Why does this matter to you? And I think that is an important aspect to add, because we can't assume that everybody knows everything.
Sayukta, you don't remember the notice that I used to put up in office? I made every bureau take a printout of that notice.
I actually wanted to talk about that. There is like one notice there that whenever you write, I'll just paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly, but it is seared in my head, because whenever you're reporting something, is it relevant to a person sitting in Sikkim? Is it relevant to a person sitting in Kashmir? It is relevant to a NRI living in Dubai. So you have to keep in mind who you are writing for, and that is everybody. So that I think everybody at News Minute really focuses on. So you don't take anybody's knowledge or ignorance for granted, both sides.
I mean, like taking off from what everybody has been saying so far, we are South End. I mean, I also used to work in a South Indian news organization, a newspaper, and we are relegated to a page called South, right? The national page is automatically North Indian, right? So we are side characters in our own stories, and that is, well, we also internalize it, right? When you work in that overwhelming atmosphere, you also learn to put yourself as, oh no, we are only relevant as the side characters, right? National news is something that happens in Delhi or a Punjab or a Bombay, right? We are not important enough to ourselves, right? And that is something I think changed with TNM, because we are like, okay, we're going to tell our own stories, right? And we'll do them well with everything that we know about the place and the people that we live with, right? So yeah, that's that.
No, so I just want to just quickly say about ground reporting, which I believe is the most important part of journalism. See, my complaint to Sudipto is, when I took him here, he was doing the ground reporting. Now he goes only once a year, but with so much difficulty, right? You know, living in, though we do have people paying for some of the, some of the stories, it's very difficult for our ground reporters. Like if Paul was there, maybe he could have explained. Like in times now, we would just take a flight, go somewhere, live in good hotels, stay back for 5-6 days, even if the story is not working out. That's a luxury which all these reporters unfortunately do not have, because, everything means more payment, right? You stay one more day, meaning you have to pay for the hotel, you have to pay. And at TNM, everybody finds a friend, an uncle or aunt to stay with. Like Harita, I think, went to Chhattisgarh and got some weird disease and came back. She went to Manipur and she was staying in weird
She went to
place.
Jharkhand, by the way.
Yeah, she went to Jharkhand, yeah.
My Madurai story is, the cab was, not the cab, whatever, the car was given by one of our readers, and he offered to also give me a room.
No, but I'm just saying that though all the difficulties, I'm just thankful to all the reporters. Like Nandini, Anisha and Shivani were always going to Mandya and Hassan for the reporting on Prajwal Revanna. And so many times they'll just drive because they know that it's an extra amount if they have to ask for the car also, right?
Political environment in the country, ground reporting is our biggest act of resistance. When everybody is trying to thrust a narrative sitting somewhere else, an agenda, you just have to go to the ground, which is actually basics of journalism. By doing that, I feel that we're resisting, and that's what everyone's
And how
trying to do.
dangerous it is for a News Minute reporter to go to the ground, once again, to reiterate this point. If you are in with one of those big ID cards of a recognizable outlet, of a national outlet, like, 150.
I have been beaten up even when I had that ID card, so no thanks.
No, but that's because you are with Times now.
No, Republic.
boss.
She was beaten up very badly that day.
Not just
What
one.
I'm saying is that we have experienced the power of that big ID card, though you might have on occasion been beaten up. Of course, in the Hindu also once or twice have been beaten up and all that. But nevertheless, that big ID card makes a difference.
Of course.
In the News Minute, when you land up at a police station and say you're the News
They're
Minute.
like, what News Minute?
What News Minute? Right? And from there to build a story. Because quite often I've experienced as a journalist from a big outlet, the outlet itself makes the mouths open.
Opens the doors for
Opens
you,
doors
then
on
you figure it
themselves.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very true.
Whenever I have a problem, I used to like put the DP with Danya when I go to fields. So if somebody asks me, police or anybody, like they used to doubt, like, if you are you a reporter? Like when I say I'm a reporter, I went to Sangareddy. They said, like, I was in a college ground. They thought I am also one of those boys who was playing cricket there. And then I said, like, no, I work with the News Minute. Then there was some senior reporter, oh, you work with the News Minute. And then he's like, I showed the photo. Then he believed. So in the police stations also, I used to show that.
Just flattery. I think a lot of people will testify to this. So for a long time, and I suppose even today, Dhanya Rajendran is a bigger brand than News Minute quite often, right? So rather than say I'm from News Minute, if you say I am from Dhanya Rajendran, doors will open. How many reporters have not experienced this? Tell me. Okay, I am from Dhanya Rajendran means, yes, we know Dhanya madam.
Hey, on this, by the way, sorry. People need to know the secret that when somebody is not picking your call and you've called for days on end, she has a number saved as God knows what. And they'll pick in one go and she'll be like, you said you didn't, the person didn't pick for 2 days, 3 days, and you feel like, oh shit, I'm not lying here, see my call logs.
It is just good karma, as
No,
they
you're
call
the
it.
head of an underworld organization.
I have a conspiracy
She is the head of an
theory.
underworld cartel.
Either that or her number is saved as Amit Shah on Truecaller.
Yesterday, one of the reporters from Hyderabad, Anjana, told me, can I save my number as Dhanya Rajendran Truecaller? Okay, so I want to bring in Yana. Yana has been patiently waiting. Yes,
youngest
Yana,
reporter right now.
no, but Yana is part of the product and revenue team. And I brought Yana in last because, see, all of us spoke about how we have moved through our journalism, right? Whether it's breaking news, whether it's putting South in perspective or gender. But nothing is possible unless the newsroom has money to run. And for a long time, we were very dependent on advertisements. But after we patched up with News Laundry, we became more subscription centric. It's not like we don't have any ads at all. We do have some. We work with some hospitals at times, but we are largely subscription driven. And every time we tell you take a subscription, it's not like just a passing word. We really mean it, because only then can we go on doing. Yana, tell us why.
I think it's also, to answer the why, it's also important to understand like where the cost is coming from, right? It's not just that we're going out on reporting. There's ground reporting, yes. Then there's video production. There's so much tech that we use in both communicating with all of our subscribers and even our website itself. So there's a lot of work that goes behind it, and that's where the cost comes from. And I feel like the more independent you are as an organization, the lesser shortcuts you can take in terms of ads or political or corporate influence. So when you remove all of those things from the picture, it's really, really just the readers and their support that, keeps you going. So yeah, please subscribe to the News Minute, because we need it now more than ever. Even if we're able to just add 2,000 subscribers to our community every quarter, every 3 months, it'll really help us move away from that financial vulnerability that we often end up encountering in our work. And it also takes away our anxiety and the pressure that comes on our newsroom and our reporters to do a certain kind of reporting, which we don't want. We want to cover everything that matters, all the stories that need to be reported on. And to have the independence to do that, we need our readers and our subscribers to really pay for the journalism. And yeah, that's really how I can sum it up.
So 2,000 is a really large number. In fact, when Yana was telling me she's going to say this number, I told her that's really big, because what people don't actually understand is when you put a good story out, right? Like a really good story, there are sometimes 10 people subscribing, sometimes 20, sometimes 30. Good story can get you 100 to 1,000. That is very rarely, right? For a newspaper like the Hindu or Indian Express, it's much easier to get subscribers because you hit a paywall for every article. Like beyond 5 articles, you can't read these newspapers. So, and that's a necessity. People who want to read news want to read every day, therefore they will pay. For us, it's much more difficult because we are not doing this daily news. So people come to us because they like us or because they want to read something. But when we say 2,000 subscribers in a quarter, it actually does not happen. Imagine if we get 10 people to sign up a day, that's 300. That's 900 in a quarter. That itself is a big deal, because a lot of Indian news consumers don't pay for news at all. And even if they do pay, it's understandable, right? They want to pay for a big newspaper. So 12th anniversary, maybe if you have liked our work over the last so many years, dozen years, I didn't even hide my grace this time, then do pay for the subscription. Yes, Sudipto?
I would look at it as a balanced diet. All of that you get from these newspapers and big outlets is a lot of carbs. Okay, carbs are important. Okay, but you need protein, you need meat, you need something, which
You need nutrition.
You need nutrition for your brain. And if you're wondering why, if I can get all my news from Putin to whatever, Revant Reddy in one newspaper, why should I subscribe to the News Minute? The answer simply is you will just get that much. One Putin, one Revant Reddy without any meat in it. So if you want that extra nutrition, I think that's the reason you should subscribe to an extra outlet.
It's like the judgment and the stenographer taking it down. What do you want?
Yana, you know who to recruit in the product and revenue team now. Sudipto Mondal. Please immediately recruit. Yeah, Anisha, last word from the first employee.
Subscribe to the News Minute for soul food.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Like Charan, for example, has come from Germany. So thank you very much.
Our other people who were supposed to join didn't come because of time difference, and we're going to take it up with them.
Anna from California,
Prajwal
from New York, excellent. Prajwal, in fact, messaged me saying, I just woke up, but I have to run.
That, I think, is also a good measure of what kind of journalism we have done, because a lot of our alumni, can I call them that, Tanya? A lot of our alumni have actually...
Alumni come back?
I hope they do. I hope we can afford to get them back one day. But the thing is that a lot of people who are now in academia doing research and things like that, their credentials were actually built with their portfolios in the News Minute, the kind of reportage they did. You have Charan, you have Prajwal, Geetika Mantri. Who else, Dhanya? You want to name a few?
In academy, I don't know, Shiba is there.
Megha Warrior.
Megha, yeah.
Yeah.
So many.
Their applications were taken seriously because of their portfolio in the News Minute, which was outstanding.
But I just have to say this. I know Dhanya doesn't want us to praise, but this is a community, right? You don't see this happening where people have quit 7, 8, 9 years ago, gone on doing different things in their lives, but they keep. And by the time this episode is live, I think Dhanya would have received this video that we've put together over the last few weeks of ex-employees coming and talking so warmly. And it is a community not just of people who worked here, but also of people who've contributed in different ways. Subscribers who've written for us, subscriber who've paid for us, who've seen you for the last 12 years. So
I
keep
was
the community
messaging
growing.
everybody saying, stop praising, stop praising.
I know, but it's so hard.
That's not happening, I think.
But I must say, Dhanya's not asked us to praise. This is all
In
very
fact, I was telling
voluntary.
Sayukta, stop praising, and she's like, sorry, I did again. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to my producer, Bhuvan Malik, who's going to have a hard time, no sleep today because he has to edit this in the night and make sure it goes tomorrow. Ajay, my production assistant. Sukanya, who will also have to write all the socials tomorrow. Yana and Jasim Ali, the editor of South Central. Keep listening, keep watching. And Sudipto, your show's coming back in the first week of March.
Are we announcing it already?
Yes.
Okay. That's another. Yeah, you belled the cat now.
Okay, so watch Sudipto's show again from March.